Preston Hartley glanced at his watch, a nervous habit he couldn't seem to shake. The gold band of his timepiece gleamed faintly in the warm candlelight of Riverside Bistro. It was 8:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve, and he was alone at a table obviously set for two. Couples surrounded him, their laughter echoing through the cozy restaurant as they toasted with clinking glasses. Their shared happiness only amplified the knot of embarrassment tightening in his stomach. He pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over the screen. Still nothing from Jennifer, the woman his business partner had so enthusiastically proclaimed was his perfect match. The reservation had been for 7:30. A full hour had ticked by. He'd called twice, sent 3 increasingly desperate messages, and received nothing but radio silence in return. This was strike 9, the 9th consecutive dating disaster in as many weeks. 9 different women, 9 different evenings gone horribly, hilariously wrong. At this point, Preston was starting to seriously consider that the universe harbored a deeply personal vendetta against his romantic prospects. Was it something he said? Something he did? Or was he simply destined to dine alone forever? A waitress, her auburn hair pulled back in a loose, casual braid, approached his table. She wore a simple black uniform, adorned with a small reindeer pin on her collar, a touch of festive cheer. Her green eyes, though, held a mixture of sympathy. And was that amusement? She placed a glass of water in front of him, unrequested. So, she began, her voice gentle but direct. How long are we going to pretend that your invisible date is just running a little late? Preston looked up, taken aback by her bluntness. Excuse me? Look, she continued, gesturing slightly with her notepad. I've been watching you check your phone every 30 seconds for the past hour. Either you're waiting for news about a life-saving kidney transplant, or you've been stood up. I'm Olivia, by the way, and my money is on the second option. Despite the situation, a small smile crept across Preston's face. Is it that obvious? Honey, you've rearranged the silverware 4 times, and folded your napkin into what I think is supposed to be a swan. Olivia tilted her head, a playful glint in her eyes. The signs are pretty clear. Christmas Eve date, Preston admitted with a sigh. Blind date, set up by a friend. Ouch. Olivia made a sympathetic face. Blind dates are risky enough on regular days. On Christmas Eve, that's just asking for trouble. So what happened? Did she even offer an explanation? She stopped responding about 2 hours ago. Olivia let out a low whistle. That's cold. Like, North Pole level cold. No pun intended. She glanced around the bustling restaurant, then back at him. You know what? I'm making an executive decision here. You are going to order the best thing on our menu, and I am personally going to make sure this night doesn't end up being the worst Christmas Eve of your life. Preston raised an eyebrow. Is that part of the restaurant policy? Nope. That's pure Olivia Bennett policy. I have a strict rule against letting decent people suffer alone on holidays. She leaned in slightly, her voice conspiratorial. You seem decent. Am I wrong? I'd like to think I'm decent. Good enough for me. Olivia scribbled something on her notepad. Our chef makes this incredible braised short rib that will make you forget all about invisible Jennifer. Trust me on this. How did you know her name was Jennifer? Lucky guess. She sounds like a Jennifer. Olivia shrugged. They always do. For the first time that evening, Preston laughed. Really laughed. You are very strange. Thank you. I work hard at it. Olivia's smile was genuine and warm. But seriously, no one should eat alone on Christmas Eve. So, while I can't exactly sit with you, I am technically working. After all, I can stop by between orders and keep you company. Deal? Preston found himself nodding, a surprising warmth spreading through him. Deal. True to her word, Olivia returned every 15 minutes. She brought him warm bread, cracked jokes about some of the more eccentric customers without being cruel, and shared stories about her own disastrous dating life. There was the man who brought his mother on their first date, the one who spent 2 hours droning on about his fantasy football league, and, of course, the one who asked her to pay because he'd forgotten his wallet at his other girlfriend's house. Wait, Preston interrupted. unable to keep from laughing. Other girlfriend? Right? The audacity! Olivia exclaimed, throwing her hands up in mock outrage. Some people really test your faith in humanity. But then you meet someone who restores it a little. Is that what I'm doing? Restoring your faith? Maybe. Olivia set down his dessert, a slice of rich chocolate cake that she insisted was on the house. You haven't been rude once, even though you have every reason to be in a foul mood. You haven't taken your frustration out on me, and you've laughed at my terrible jokes. That makes you better than 70% of the people I meet. Preston took a bite of the cake. It was heavenly. This is amazing. I know. Our pastry chef is a magician. Olivia checked her watch. We close in an hour. What are your plans for tomorrow? Please tell me you aren't spending Christmas alone, eating microwave dinners and watching infomercials. That was exactly my plan, actually. Olivia's face fell. Oh no, 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 no. That is unacceptable. She grabbed a napkin and scribbled something down. Okay, this is crazy, and you can absolutely say no. But how would you feel about coming to my family's Christmas dinner tomorrow? Preston stared at her, completely dumbfounded. What? I know it sounds insane. We just met, but my mom always makes enough food to feed a small army. My sister will probably challenge you to video games, and I promise we are only moderately dysfunctional. Olivia pushed the napkin towards him. That's my address. Dinner starts at 5. Just show up. No pressure. Why would you invite a complete stranger to your family's Christmas? Olivia met his eyes, her gaze surprisingly serious. Because I've been stood up before. I know how much it hurts. And because something tells me you're a good person who deserves better than spending the holidays alone. She stood up, her voice softening. Think about it. The invitation stands either way. Then, she walked away, leaving Preston alone with his thoughts. Preston looked down at the napkin, at the address written in neat handwriting, followed by a small, cheerful smiley face. He folded it carefully and slipped it into his pocket. For the first time in months, Preston felt something shift inside him. Hope, maybe, or just the simple, unexpected warmth of human kindness. Whatever it was, it felt like the best Christmas gift he had received in years. Preston woke up on Christmas morning to sunlight streaming through his penthouse windows. The city of Denver stretched out before him, a pristine blanket of fresh snow covering everything. He lay in bed for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the napkin resting on his nightstand. The address seemed to glow in the morning light, daring him to be brave. His logical mind immediately began listing all the reasons why this was a terrible idea. Olivia was a stranger. Her family knew nothing about him. He could be walking straight into an awkward, uncomfortable disaster. But his heart, the part of him that had laughed genuinely for the first time in months the night before, whispered something different. It urged him to take a chance, to embrace the unexpected. By noon, Preston had changed clothes 6 times, each outfit more scrutinized than the last. Too formal. He looked like he was attending a board meeting. Too casual. It seemed disrespectful. He finally settled on dark jeans, a navy sweater, and a well-worn brown leather jacket that felt both comfortable and presentable. He stopped at a wine shop and selected a bottle that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Then, second-guessing himself, he added a box of expensive chocolates to the bag. A hostess gift, just in case. The Bennett house was located in a modest neighborhood where every home seemed to be engaged in a silent competition for the title of most festive Christmas decorations. Number 42 boasted multicolored lights strung across the roof, an inflatable Santa in the yard, and a wreath on the door made of pine cones and red ribbons. It was charming, welcoming, and slightly overwhelming. Preston sat in his car for 3 full minutes, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He felt a surge of panic, the urge to turn around and drive back to the safety and solitude of his penthouse almost overwhelming. Before he could change his mind, the front door swung open. Olivia stood there, framed in the doorway, wearing a green sweater with a ridiculously cheerful Christmas tree pattern. She waved at him enthusiastically with both arms. I saw you sitting out there having an existential crisis, she called out, her voice warm and inviting. Get in here before you freeze. Preston grabbed the wine and chocolates and walked up the snow-covered path, his heart pounding in his chest. Olivia met him at the door with a huge, radiant smile. You actually came. I told Mom you would, but she bet me $5 you'd chicken out. Olivia took the wine bottle, her eyes widening in surprise. Whoa, this is fancy. Like really fancy. We usually drink the stuff that comes in boxes. I can take it back and get something else. Are you kidding? Mom is going to lose her mind. Come on in. Olivia pulled him inside, the warmth of the house enveloping him like a hug. The house was filled with the inviting aroma of cinnamon and roasted turkey. A Christmas tree dominated the small living room, decorated with ornaments that looked handmade and lovingly collected over many years. Photos covered every wall, chronicling Olivia and another girl growing up through various awkward, endearing phases. Mom, Sophie! Olivia shouted, her voice echoing through the house. A woman in her 50s emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour-covered hands on an apron that read, Queen of the Kitchen. She had the same bright green eyes as Olivia and a smile that could melt glaciers. You must be Preston. I'm Ruth. She hugged him before he could even think about offering a handshake. Welcome. Welcome. Olivia wouldn't stop talking about you this morning. Said you were too nice to spend Christmas alone. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Bennet. Ruth, please. Mrs. Bennet was my mother-in-law, and she was terrifying. Ruth took the wine bottle and gasped. Oh my goodness. This has French words on it. We are definitely drinking this. A younger woman bounded down the stairs, wearing reindeer antlers that bobbed comically as she moved. Is this the guy from the restaurant? The one who got ditched by... What's her name? Sophie. Olivia threw a couch pillow at her sister. Sophie dodged it easily. What? You told us the whole story. She turned to Preston and stuck out her hand. I'm Sophie, the younger and more attractive sister. Welcome to the chaos. Ignore her. She thinks she's funny, Olivia said, rolling her eyes. I am funny. Mom, am I funny? You or something? Ruth called from the kitchen, her voice full of affection. Preston found himself laughing again, the sound surprisingly easy and natural. The Bennet family had an energy that was completely foreign to him. His own childhood had been quiet, structured, filled with tutors and expectations. This house buzzed with life and noise and, most of all, love. Come sit. Olivia guided him to the couch. Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes. Want something to drink? We have soda, juice, beer, and now fancy French wine that I'm scared to open. Water is fine. Sophie plopped down in an armchair across from them. So, Preston, Sophie said. Olivia says you're some kind of tech genius. What does that mean exactly? Do you hack into government databases? Sophie. Olivia buried her face in her hands. What? It's a valid question. Preston smiled. Nothing that exciting. I run a software company. We develop security systems for businesses. That actually sounds pretty cool, Sophie admitted grudgingly. Can you hack into my ex-boyfriend's Instagram? I just want to see if he's dating that girl from his gym. No, he cannot hack your ex's Instagram, Olivia said firmly. You're no fun. Ruth returned with a tray of snacks. Cheese, crackers, and vegetables arranged in a way that was more enthusiastic than elegant. So, Preston, tell us about yourself. Olivia mentioned you've had some rough luck with dating lately. Preston felt his face heat up. She told you about that? Honey, she told us everything, Ruth said, winking at Olivia. The crying ex-wife lady, the one with the secret dog, the one who confused you with someone else. Ruth counted on her fingers. You've been through the wars. It's been a challenging few weeks, Preston admitted, feeling a wave of embarrassment wash over him. Challenging? Sophie snorted. That sounds like a nightmare. Why do you keep trying blind dates? Have you heard of dating apps? I've tried those too. Same results. Maybe you're looking in the wrong places, Ruth suggested gently. Sometimes the best things come when we stop looking so hard. Olivia caught Preston's eye and smiled softly, a silent understanding passing between them. Dinner was served at a table that was far too small for 4 people and all the food. Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, rolls, and 3 different types of pie waited on the counter, threatening to overflow. The china didn't match, the glasses were all different sizes, but somehow, everything felt perfect. "Before we eat, we do a little tradition," Ruth announced, her eyes twinkling. "Everyone shares something they're grateful for this year." Sophie went first. "I'm grateful I finally saved enough money to go back to college in January, and that my family didn't disown me when I dropped out the first time." "We considered it," Olivia teased. "Your turn," Sophie shot back. Olivia grew thoughtful. "I'm grateful for second chances, for new friendships, and for people who remind me that kindness matters." She looked at Preston when she said it, her gaze lingering for a moment. Ruth dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. "I'm grateful for my beautiful daughters and for the unexpected guests who make holidays special." She smiled warmly at Preston. "Your turn, dear." Preston felt a lump in his throat. "I'm grateful that a waitress refused to let me eat alone last night, and for being welcomed into a home that feels more like family than any place I've been in a long time." Sophie made an exaggerated crying sound. "Now I'm going to cry. And I just did my makeup." "You're not wearing makeup," Olivia pointed out. "Exactly. It's tragic." Dinner was filled with stories and laughter. Ruth told embarrassing tales about both daughters. Sophie shared stories about her classes and her dreams of becoming a teacher. And Olivia talked about the restaurant and the colorful characters who came through every week. Preston found himself sharing things he never talked about. His workaholic tendencies, his loneliness, how success in business had somehow left him feeling empty in life. "Money doesn't buy happiness," Ruth said wisely. "But family and love, those are priceless." After dinner came games. Board games that quickly turned competitive, card games that had rules Sophie kept making up on the fly, and charades that had everyone laughing until they cried. Preston couldn't remember the last time he had simply played. Simply enjoyed a moment without thinking about work, obligations, or the next thing on his meticulously planned schedule. As the evening wound down, Preston helped Olivia clear the dishes while Ruth and Sophie argued over which pie to have first. "Thank you for inviting me," Preston said quietly, his voice filled with genuine gratitude. "This has been the best Christmas I've had in years. Maybe ever." Olivia smiled, her hands submerged in soapy water. "Thank you for coming. For being brave enough to accept a crazy invitation from a stranger." "You're not a stranger anymore." "No," Olivia agreed, meeting his eyes. "I guess I'm not." In that moment, standing in a modest kitchen with mismatched dishes and the sound of family laughter in the background, Preston realized that something profound had shifted in his life. Something important, something real. The morning after Christmas, Preston woke up in his penthouse feeling different. The expensive furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows that usually impressed him now felt cold and empty. He made coffee in his state-of-the-art machine and sat by the window watching Denver come alive below him. His mind kept replaying moments from the previous day. Ruth's warm hugs, Sophie's terrible jokes, and Olivia's smile that seemed to light up the entire room. He picked up his phone 3 times to text Olivia, then put it down each time, a wave of self-doubt washing over him. What would he even say? "Thank you" felt too formal. "I had fun" seemed too casual. "I haven't stopped thinking about you since I left" seemed way too intense. Even if it was true. Finally, around noon, his phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. "So, did we scare you away completely? Or are you still recovering from Sophie's charades performance?" Preston smiled and typed back. "Still recovering. I didn't know it was possible to act out The Empire Strikes Back using only aggressive hand gestures. She has a gift. Also, Mom wanted me to ask if you ate the leftovers she packed for you. She'll be personally offended if you didn't. I had them for breakfast. Tell her they were amazing. She's going to love that. Also, what are you doing this afternoon?" Preston looked around his empty apartment. Nothing concrete. "Why? Wanna grab coffee? There's a place near the park that makes the best hot chocolate in Denver. My treat." Since you brought that fancy wine yesterday, you don't have to treat me. I want to. Meet me at River Park Cafe at 2? Preston found himself grinning at his phone like a teenager. I'll be there. He arrived 15 minutes early, which gave him plenty of time to panic about whether this was a date or just a friendly coffee. Olivia showed up right at 2 o'clock, wearing jeans and a thick burgundy sweater, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with expensive clothes or perfect makeup. "You're early," she observed, sitting down across from him. "That's very responsible of you. I didn't want to be late. After being stood up, I bet you're extra careful about that now." Olivia ordered 2 hot chocolates from the waitress. "So, how does it feel to be back in your normal life after experiencing the Bennett family chaos?" Preston considered the question carefully. "Honestly, it feels quiet. Too quiet. That's how I feel about your world, I imagine. All fancy and organized, and probably with furniture that matches." Olivia stirred her hot chocolate when it arrived. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why do you work so much?" Olivia hesitated. "You mentioned you work 70-hour weeks. That seems like a lot." Preston wrapped his hands around his mug, feeling the warmth seep into his skin. "I suppose because I'm good at it. Building a company, solving problems, making deals. That part makes sense to me. The rest of life has always been harder. The rest of life being relationships, connections, knowing what to say to people who aren't talking about business proposals." Preston met her eyes, his gaze sincere. "Until I met you, I'd forgotten how to just talk to someone. Really talk." Olivia's cheeks flushed slightly, a delicate blush creeping across her face. "You make it sound like I did something special. I just refused to let you eat alone." "That was special. More than you know." A comfortable silence settled between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Preston leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Can I be honest with you about something, please?" Olivia nodded, her eyes wide with anticipation. "I haven't stopped thinking about yesterday. About your family, about how it felt to be included in something real, and mostly about you." Preston felt his heart racing, a mixture of nervousness and excitement bubbling inside him. "I know we just met. I know this is probably too fast, but I would really like to take you on a proper date. If you're interested." Olivia bit her lip, a small smile playing on her lips. "Define proper date." "Dinner at a nice restaurant. Maybe a movie, or a walk. Something where we get to know each other better, without your sister making sound effects in the background." Olivia laughed, the sound light and melodic. Sophie does have a tendency to provide unnecessary commentary. She reached across the table and gently touched his hand, her fingers warm against his. "I would love to go on a proper date with you, Preston. But I have one condition." "What's that?" "You have to promise that if you ever feel like you're drowning in work again, if you ever feel that loneliness creeping back, you'll call me. Even if we're just friends, even if this date goes terribly." Preston felt something tight in his chest loosen, replaced by a wave of overwhelming relief. "Deal." They spent the next 3 hours in that coffee shop, talking about everything and nothing. Preston learned that Olivia had wanted to be a teacher, but couldn't afford to finish college. She worked at the restaurant to help her mom with bills after her father had passed away 5 years earlier. She loved old movies, terrible reality TV shows, and had read every book in the local library's mystery section twice. Olivia learned that Preston had built his company from nothing, that he had been poor once, too. That success had come at the cost of almost everything else in his life. She learned about his distant family, his lack of close friends, his desperate attempts to find connection in all the wrong places. "You were looking for something perfect?" Olivia said gently, her voice full of empathy. "But perfect doesn't exist. Real does. Is that what this is? Real?" "I think so." "Scary, right?" Preston smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes. Terrifying, but in a good way. Their first official date happened 3 days later. Dinner at a restaurant that was nice but not pretentious, followed by a walk through downtown Denver to see the Christmas lights that were still up. Preston held Olivia's hand, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. The second date was ice skating, where Olivia fell 7 times and laughed every single time. The third was a movie that neither of them watched because they were too busy talking in whispers. January came and went, and Preston found himself spending every Sunday dinner at the Bennett house. February brought Valentine's Day, where Preston surprised Olivia by attempting to cook dinner himself. It was a disaster. The smoke alarm went off, the sauce was burnt, and the pasta was mushy. But she loved it anyway. March, April, and May passed in a blur of moments. Some big, like when Preston met Olivia's extended family at a chaotic, hilarious barbecue. Some small, like lazy Sunday mornings drinking coffee and reading the paper together. Preston cut back his work hours, hired more staff, and learned that success meant nothing without someone to share it with. By summer, Preston had a drawer at Olivia's apartment. By fall, Olivia had a key to his penthouse. They balanced each other perfectly. She taught him to slow down, to find joy in simple things, and to let people in. He encouraged her dreams, helped her enroll in online classes, and showed her that wanting more didn't mean abandoning family. When Christmas came around again, Preston knew exactly what he wanted to do. Christmas Eve found him back at Riverside Bistro, sitting at the same table where he had been stood up a year earlier. But this time, Olivia sat across from him, radiant in a deep green dress, completely unaware of what was coming. "I can't believe it's been a year," Olivia said, looking around the restaurant, her voice full of wonder. "Remember how pathetic you looked sitting here alone? Thanks for that." Preston grinned, his heart overflowing with happiness. "I'm kidding. You looked distinguished. Sad, but distinguished." Olivia reached across the table and took his hand, her touch sending a familiar shiver of electricity through him. "Best decision I ever made, talking to you that night." "Funny," Preston said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was just thinking the same thing." He took a deep breath and stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. "Preston, what are you doing?" He knelt down on one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Around them, the restaurant fell silent, all eyes focused on the unfolding scene. "Olivia, this time last year I thought I had everything figured out. I had money, success, a nice apartment, but I was missing the only thing that actually mattered. I was missing someone to share it all with." Olivia's eyes widened, tears welling up in the corners. "Preston, what are you doing?" He opened the box, revealing a sparkling diamond ring. "I'm asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to keep teaching me how to live, how to love, how to find joy in the chaos. I'm asking you to let me spend every Christmas for the rest of my life with you and your incredible family." Tears streamed down Olivia's face, her cheeks flushed with emotion. "You practiced this speech, didn't you? For 3 weeks. Is it too much?" "It's perfect," Olivia choked out, laughing through her tears. Yes, I will marry you." The restaurant erupted in applause, a wave of joyous energy washing over them. Preston slipped the ring on her finger, then stood and pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss, feeling like the luckiest man alive. Later that night, at the Bennett house, surrounded by Ruth and Sophie and enough food to feed an army, Preston realized something profound. A year ago, he had been alone, stood up and convinced that he would never find what he was looking for. He had been searching for perfect when all he really needed was real, and he had finally found it in the most unexpected of places. What he craved, what he desperately needed, wasn't another business deal, another trophy wife, or another fleeting moment of superficial praise. It was authenticity. It was a connection that transcended his wealth and status, someone who saw beyond the tailored suits and the gleaming skyscrapers to the flawed, vulnerable man beneath. He yearned for a partner who would challenge him, ignite his dormant passions, share in laughter that reached his soul, and refuse to let him retreat into the safe, predictable world of his work. He needed Olivia, the waitress with the perpetually kind eyes, the woman who had single-handedly salvaged his Christmas from the brink of despair, the woman who had quietly, irrevocably, altered the course of his life. As the final seconds of the year ticked away, and Ruth, beaming with maternal pride, presented a bottle of champagne to commemorate the engagement, Preston's gaze locked with Olivia's across the crowded room. The air crackled with unspoken emotion. She formed the words, "I love you," with her lips, a silent promise that resonated deep within his chest. His heart, long encased in ice, began to thaw, to swell with a warmth he hadn't believed possible. Sometimes, he realized, the most profound blessings arrive when you cease the relentless pursuit. Sometimes, they're disguised in the humble uniform of an apron-clad waitress, carrying a simple offering of complimentary bread. Sometimes, they materialize as a spontaneous invitation from a complete stranger, a stranger who possessed an uncanny intuition for exactly what your soul desperately craved. Preston raised his champagne flute, the bubbles catching the light, a silent testament to the transformations he'd undergone. To 2 Christmas miracles, he announced, his voice thick with emotion. To 2 second chances at happiness. And to the brave waitress who refused to let a sad, lonely stranger eat Christmas dinner alone. To family, Ruth added, her eyes brimming with tears of joy, squeezing Preston's hand tightly. To love, Sophie echoed, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, overcome with emotion. To us, Olivia finished, her voice soft but firm, her hand finding Preston's across the table, their fingers intertwining in a silent pledge. And to every Christmas from now until forever, together. Outside, the first delicate flakes of snow began their descent upon Denver, gradually enveloping the city in a pristine blanket of white. Inside the warm, inviting confines of the small house on Maple Street, a family, an unconventional, beautifully imperfect family, celebrated their newfound bond. It wasn't a fairy tale existence, but it was real. It was authentic. And that, Preston knew, made all the difference in the world. The end.